this is Stamping Songbird, and today we're going to make this really pretty sympathy card. So I'm just going to show you what I'm going to use. I'm going to use a Stampin' Up! Ink pad called Blue Lagoon. I'm also going to use a Stampin' Up! Ink pad Chocolate Chip, which is discontinued, but it's one of my favorite colors, and I still have the ink pad, so I still use it. And we're going to use this Hostess set called Because I Care. So Hostess sets sometimes are expired, or they turn into actual stamp sets. This one I love a lot because of that beautiful flower. I believe it's a chrysanthemum. I could be wrong. I have already pre-mounted the Because I Care stamp, and I've pre-mounted that beautiful chrysanthemum. So we're going to get started. This is the card that we're going to make, and it's going to be the same card with a little variation on the width of that pattern paper, but basically the same card. So here is your standard size invitation size card, which is closed as 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, open is 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, folded or scored at 4 1/4. And here I noticed that I didn't fold it properly, so I want to make sure that it is aligned properly and folded carefully. Nothing like a sloppy card. So I'm carefully just using my finger to fix that bend or that score, and it worked perfectly. If I had run it through the machine again or through the paper trimmer to score it, I would have probably ruined the paper. So we're going to cover that top vanilla colored paper with this early espresso Stampin' Up! Color, which is a really deep chocolate, like a dark chocolate. So the base of the card measures at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I just cut this at a little more than, actually a little less than 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So it's in between the 5 1/2 and the 5 1/4 mark, and between the 4 1/4 and the 4 mark, if that makes any sense. I'm terrible with measurements. Usually just count the little lines, and that's how I get by. Works for me. So I'm just going to mount that right at the top, and you can see there's just a tiny little border left of that vanilla color showing through. Okay, I'm just checking my measurements to make sure that I'm using the right base. So now I'm going to mount this vanilla piece on top of that chocolate piece so that I'm layering it, and you can see the little borders around it. So this piece measures at 4 by 5 1/4, 4 by 5 1/4, and that's going to go right on top of that early espresso or that very dark chocolate color. You can do this in any color. You just basically need the two colors. Always go with a neutral and a darker shade. The neutral is always good so that you can do your stamping on. And if you see me messing with my hands or like brushing something off my hands, it's because I emboss on top of this workstation, and I always have some residue no matter how much I clean it. So here I'm just checking my measurements just to be sure. And this piece, I believe it measures, I want to say the chocolate piece measures at 2 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to take this pattern piece that I got from a really nice set from Marshall's, which I'll show you in a second, and I'm going to mount that right at the top. So this goes right over, and as you can see, there's a border on the left and right, but the top and bottom are the same length. So this is the paper pack that I found at Marshall's. It's My Mind's Eye, the Handsome set, a 6 by 6, and I paid only $1.99. And the papers are just gorgeous. And that's the paper that I'm using, and I'm just showing you a real quick sneak peek at what's inside. Okay, put that to the side. I'm going to take this piece, it looks like a little column. I'm going to put that on the left side. I tend to move things to the left. I don't know why. So I'm going to leave a little bit of that vanilla showing on the left side. Not exactly pushing it all the way to the left. Making sure it's straight. I hate when I do things and then they're crooked. It just drives me crazy. So I'm going to take that chrysanthemum stamp that comes in the Because I Care hostess set, and I'm going to ink it up with the Blue Lagoon, but I'm not showing you that because I've actually already done it. So you just ink it up and put it right on top of your paper. I've already done it. And I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to mount it onto a chocolate piece. And I apologize, I don't have the measurements on right now, but I believe, and don't quote me on this, it's something like 2 1/4 by probably 3 3/4, but don't quote me on that. I forgot to write the measurements down. And usually I don't really measure. I actually just took the stamp and I put it against the ruler, and that's how I figured out how much space I would need for my paper. So I really didn't measure. You could do the same thing, or you could measure the exact size that you need. So I'm mounting that onto that early espresso piece, which is a very dark chocolate, and I'm going to put that towards the center. So it almost doesn't look like it's going in the center because you have that pattern paper on the left. But if you look at the amount of space left on the pattern side and then on the vanilla side, you'll see that it is in the middle. So I'm not quite in the middle. I move it over, and there I'm in the middle. So that bottom right corner is where we're going to put our sentiment. So here I've got it centered. Just pressing that down. I've got my Because I Care stamp already mounted, and I'm going to ink that up using the chocolate chip ink. Should always do your sentiments a little darker than the images that you have there, so it stands out. And I love these acrylic blocks because you can see exactly where you're stamping. You don't have to use a stamp imaging anymore, although I use those for the wood stamps. But I love these clear stamps. Okay, putting that away. And then I stamped an extra piece. And the reason that I stamped the extra piece was so that I could cut out the top part of the chrysanthemum. So that takes a while. So I'm just showing you how you would cut it. And then I've already pre-cut another piece. Because then if not, I would have been here a very long time showing you how to cut. And that's like watching paint dry on a wall. So here I'm taking the Stampin' Up dimensionals. They're hard to see on the camera, but they're like little hexagons or octagons. And you pull those out and you mount them onto the back of any image or any piece so that it gives a dimension. So it almost looks like it's popping out. So I put those right on the back. I added 5 on the back, which is probably overkill, but I always want to make sure that it's going to stick. So I take that out and I'm going to place it right on top of the flower part of the image that's already stamped. So you want to make sure that you're placing it correctly so that it doesn't look like it's a wrong puzzle piece. You want to make sure that it matches. So I'm just going around, and then I finally figure out where it belongs. And once I'm sure, I just put that down. Okay, press down on the dimensional pieces or any foam adhesives that you might have. And here you can see how it's got a bit of dimension, right? It's a little hard to see on the camera, but if you see it in person, it looks lifted, like 3D. And that's basically it. A very simple sympathy card, or Because I Care, or Thinking of You. Until next time, thanks for watching.